What's up everyone, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So for this video, we're going to be covering the next upcoming Ultimate Trials, which is going to be featuring the challenge against Alexander. We're also going to be covering the reworks and EX debuts and realizations that are going to be present with this particular Ultimate Trials, which is going to be for RAIJIN and Sazh. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the Super Synergy and which ones you should be bringing for the farmable version of the stage, which is going to be Sazh, RAIJIN, Tidus, Rosa, and as well as Firion and Ashe. Now we're also going to be touching up a little bit on the banners because there are going to be two banners featured, but in particular we're going to be talking about the Sazh and RAIJIN banner, and we're also going to be covering the actual Alexander boss fight in the Chaos version of that fight. And like you guys noticed on my last video for Eldnarsh, I am including a kind of like a how to play section for the characters that are featured for this, primarily just for Sazh and RAIJIN, because they are the ones that get their upgrades as well as their EX debuts and EX realizations. So before we move on to the video, as always, I want to give a big thanks to Rem and the Dissidia DB, because all the information that is found in this video comes directly from his website. I also want to give a shout out to the Tonberry Troop for the beautiful infographics that they create to summarize these characters for us, as well as to Macnol and the Dissidia info, as well as the OO tracker, because there is that OO tracker now, which helps us out in keeping track on, which characters we use for particular dimensions ends and things like that. And also, I want to give a big shout out to the Final Fantasy TCC podcast for the weekly podcast they provide for Global Opera Omnia to help us players, get better with the game and things like that. All right, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the Alexander Ultimate Trials. New Ultimate Trials event, Alexander gains an upgraded blessing. Upon leveling him to level 30, his blessing raises max HP by 15% whenever HP falls below 80% of max. His blessing also grants a 15% HP regen for 10 turns one time. Mastering his summon board offers your characters the following 7 unique passives. Number 1, Holy Resist Up, lowers holy damage taken by 10%. Number 2, Holy Resist All, lowers the party's holy damage taken by 3%. Number 3, Holy Power Up, increases holy brave damage dealt by 10%. Number 4, Alexander Boost Up, permanently increases max brave by 5% when HP drops below 60% of max HP for the first time. Number 5, Alexander Base Attack Up, permanently increases initial brave by 5% and attack by 2% when HP drops below 60% of max HP for the first time. Number 6, Alexander Target Power increases brave damage dealt by 10% when attacking an enemy targeting self. And number 7, Alexander Receive Heal Up, increasing HP heal received by 5% when brave is less than 50% of max brave. Ideal passives for your characters are as follows. If they naturally wield the Holy Element, passives 3, 4, and 5 are recommended. If they do not wield the Holy Element, passives 4, 5, and 6 are recommended. Both Sazh and RAIJIN receive very powerful reworks, EX debuts, and EX realizations with this upcoming Ultimate Trials. RAIJIN's Skill 1 Fist gets +2 uses, now delivers a 5-hit non-elemental melee single-target brave plus single-target HP attack with a much higher brave potency, 150% brave overflow, and improves the effects of his physical attack up buff as well as extending its duration by 2 turns. His Fist Plus now has a self-brave heal based on his own max brave prior to the brave hits, and then delivers a 5-hit Thunder melee single-target brave plus single-target HP attack with a much higher brave potency, 180% brave overflow, and as well as improving the effects of his physical attack up buff plus extending its duration by 2 turns. His Skill 2 RAIJIN Special gets +2 uses, now delivers a 4-hit Thunder melee single-target brave plus single-target HP attack with a much higher brave potency, 120% brave overflow, 50% HP splash damage, and improves the effects of his max brave up buff. His RAIJIN Special Plus delivers a 4-hit Thunder Melee AoE Brave plus single target HP attack with a much higher Brave potency, increased Brave damage against a single target, 150% Brave overflow, 50% HP splash damage, and also improves the effects of his max Brave up buff. Lastly, RAIJIN's Brave Attack Plus now has 3 Brave hits and a much higher Brave potency. RAIJIN's EX weapon, prior to its realization, equips him with the EX ability called RAIJIN Super, which is a 6-hit Thunder Melee single-target Brave plus single-target HP attack with a 120% Brave overflow, grants Thunder Stance for 6 turns, and applies 1 stack of a new unique buff called Roaring Thunder for 6 turns. Roaring Thunder increases his own max Brave and attack by 10% per stack, and also implies Thunder Enchant and HP regen to his allies. Roaring Thunder stacks are increased whenever RAIJIN takes an action, except when using his Discharge command, capping out at 3 stacks. This EX ability at full limit break has a slightly fast recast speed. At 3 stacks of Roaring Thunder, RAIJIN's HP attack changes to Discharge, which is a 3-hit Thunder Melee AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with split HP damage, inflicts paralysis on all enemies for 1 turn, and resets the Roaring Thunder stacks to 1. Upon realizing his EX weapon, RAIJIN gains the following upgrades. 0 out of 3 upgrades his EX ability with a much higher Brave potency, 150% Brave overflow, 50% HP splash damage, and now inflicts Thunder Imperil on all enemies for 4 turns. 1 out of 3 permanently increases the party's max Brave and attack by 40%. 2 out of 3 grants RAIJIN and his allies physical attack up at the start of the quest for 6 turns, grants max Brave up to RAIJIN for 6 turns at the start of the quest, grants RAIJIN Thunder Stance for 6 turns at the start of the quest, and fills his own EX recast gauge to max at the start of the quest. Finally, 3 out of 3 further improves his EX ability, increasing the Brave hits to 8, further increasing the Brave potency, and now deals 100% AoE HP damage rather than just splash damage. Furthermore, while in Thunder Stance, RAIJIN now has access to HP Attack Plus, which is a 2-hit Thunder Melee single-target Brave plus single-target HP attack with a 120% Brave overflow, and access to Discharge Plus, which has an increased Brave potency, increased Brave damage against a single target, and a 120% Brave overflow. The A-type sphere unlocked from his EX weapon is called Break Hit Physical Attack Long, which raises the equipped character's physical attack by 15% for 6 turns when breaking a target or attacking a broken target. Recommended artifact passes for RAIJIN are 3 copies of Attack plus 108 and Max Brave plus 330. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at what Sazh gets from his rework, EX Debut and EX Realization. Sazh's rework first improves his C54 passive, now increasing his speed while he is buffed. His skill 1 Aim gets plus 4 uses, now delivers a 4-hit non-elemental range single target Brave plus single target HP attack with a much higher Brave potency and a 150% Brave overflow. Sazh gains access to Aim Plus while the enemy is debuffed, which now self-Brave heals based on max Brave prior to the Brave hits, increases the Brave potency, and increases the Brave overflow. His skill 2 Attack Boost gains plus 3 uses, improves the effect of the Attack Up buff, extends the duration of all buffs granted by 2 turns, and improves the Brave Heal granted to the party. It now triggers a 3-hit non-elemental range single target Brave plus single target HP attack with a 150% Brave overflow and will not count towards the turn count except for friend or summon. After Sazh uses Attack Boost, he gains access to Brave Attack Plus, now with 2 Brave hits, increased Brave potency, guaranteed accuracy on Brave Attack Plus, and inflicts attack down and defense down on an enemy target for 6 turns. Sazh's HP Attack Plus also gets upgraded with an extension to the base duration by 4 turns, increased Brave hits by 1, increased Brave potency, guaranteed accuracy on HP Attack Plus, and also inflicts attack down and defense down on an enemy target for 6 turns. Prior to its realization, Sazh's EX weapon equips him with the EX ability called Cold Blood, which is a guaranteed hit, 12-hit, non-elemental range, AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack, followed by a 4-hit, non-elemental range, AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with an increased Brave damage against a single target, 120% Brave overflow, split HP damage, and grants him a new unique buff called Chocobo Chick Fever for 6 turns, which increases his own and attack and max Brave by 40%. extends the duration of buffs granted by 2 turns, and increases the party's critical Brave damage and Brave overflow. This EX ability at full limit break has a slightly faster recast speed. Upon realizing this EX weapon, Sazh gets the following upgrades. 0 out of 3 upgrades his EX ability with a much higher Brave potency, 150% Brave overflow, and now inflicts speed down for 6 turns. 1 out of 3 permanently increases his own attack and max Brave by 40%. 2 out of 3 allows Sazh to start the quest with Chocobo Chick Fever for 6 turns and 60% speed up for 8 turns, and also allows the party to start the quest with 60% max Brave up, 70% attack up, and 100% critical rate up for 8 turns. Finally, 3 out of 3 further upgrades his EX ability, with it now delivering a 7-hit non-elemental range AoE Brave plus single target HP attack triggered 2 times, followed by a 6-hit non-elemental range AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack with a much higher Brave potency and a 180% Brave overflow. The D-type sphere unlocked from this EX weapon is called Critical Attack Long, which increases the party's attack by 5% for 6 turns when dealing a critical hit. Recommended artifact passes for Sazh are 3 copies of Attack plus 108 and Max Brave plus 330. Alright guys, so now that we've gone ahead and covered what Sazh and RAIJIN bring with their reworks and their EX realizations, what are my thoughts on each of these characters? Well, let's take a look at Sazh first, because we're probably more familiar with him, especially if you guys remember when Sazh got his 35 CP way back ago early, where he kind of became like, we all called him the Lord and Savior Sazh, because he was just so powerful as an offensive support. And then down the line, as EX weapons came along, and then level 70 came along, Sazh was, you know, he was kind of just chilling there, you know? He wasn't nearly as used, but now with his rework, one of the things that I really like is his skill 2 is now turn efficient, because for one, it doesn't take up a turn count. It also now has a Brave plus HP attack, so he actually deals damage afterwards. And to top it off, the buffs that he actually gives to your party are further increased. Like, come on guys, what is it? 60% max Brave up, 70% attack up, and 100% critical rate up for the party. That's screaming like massive amount of damage for the entire party. Now, I will say that because these are just generic buffs, Sazh makes it a little bit harder to use when it comes to using him like with another buffer. So my personal recommendations, if you build this character, is to probably use him with somebody with strong auras. For example, like Arciella actually provides an aura which complements, you know, Sazh, so then that way he doesn't have to worry about getting his buffs pushed off, because they do have very high percentages for the party. And then to top it off, you know, that whole guaranteed hit, that was kind of like his thing, because, you know, he's an expert marksman. And then I like how his Brave attack plus and his HP attack plus now can also inflict debuffs. So then if you find yourself like at a high Brave amount and you're like, well, I don't want to use my skill 1 or skill 2, just go with his HP attack plus or even his Brave attack plus. You know, he'll deal his damage, and he's also going to be inflicting 2 debuffs. So overall, Sazh got some pretty nice upgrades, and not to mention that sweet EX, especially when you have it 3 out of 3, he hits what, 3 times, and he like dances around shooting all these different bullets. And then not to mention that really cool the unique icon that he gets, that Chocobo Chick Fever, that really cute Chocobo that's, you know, on his head, you know, gives him more attack and max Brave, and also gives Brave overflow and also increased crit rate to your allies. You know, he is essentially, you know, the epitome of like an offensive support machine, and definitely a character that has received some well, you know, deserved upgrades. Now let's go ahead and talk about Mr. RAIJIN. So you guys already know how I feel about RAIJIN if you guys watch my video called Budget Lufenia Champions, where I cover how RAIJIN is actually very viable even up to now for the Lufenia era. So RAIJIN, insane upgrades. I mean, he not only hits harder, he has higher potencies, higher Brave overflows. He gets that new stacking buff called Roaring Thunder, which provides auras to the party in the form of Thunder Enchant and as well as HP regen. And then he also now has access to that discharge command off of his HP plus his HP attack command, where he applies AoE paralysis. And it's pretty easy to set up though that AoE paralysis, because all you need to do is get the stacks up to 3, and you could do that by taking actions outside of using discharge, because when you use discharge it resets the stack to 1. So it doesn't take very long to really get those stacks up. And let's not forget his C65, which actually deals damage, also increases the stack. So RAIJIN has become like this AoE paralysis machine, and he also provides Thunder Enchant and Thunder Imperil. And not to mention, he also has some pretty potent auras to the party. I mean, if you 1 out of 3 his EX weapon alone, if you realize it 1 out of 3, he provides a 40% attack and max brave up to the party. I mean, that's pretty crazy, right? And then let's not forget his other auras, his other passives, which, provide, offensive auras to the party. For example, I believe it's his C68 passive, which increases the party's attack and max brave by 10%. So his auras are actually quite good, being an offensive character. And then he has his physical attack up buffs where, he essentially not only helps himself increase his physical damage, but it also complements other, characters that use physical damage. So very, very good character overall. Both characters receive some much needed upgrades. Now, to touch up on the banner, and I'm only going to particularly touch up on the Sazh and RAIJIN banner. I know you guys are going to be like, okay, you're going to ask the question, but this is how I'm going to be approaching banners from now on. Because as you guys know, for those of you that play either both Global or JP, or you guys that only play Global but actually follow JP and see where JP is at, these characters that we're getting, whether they're reworks or whether they're brand new, they all have an extreme amount of value to bring. Okay, all of these characters have value to bring, and when it comes to the Lufenia era, it's no longer going to be about having all the best characters, because obviously, since this is a gacha game, there's always going to be characters that are better than others. But even the ones that are not necessarily the best, they have value to bring, because Lufenia is all about team comps. Team comps is going to be more so important for the Lufenia era, so every character brings value. So when approaching this banner, ask yourself this question. If you pull for RAIJIN and Sazh, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get Thunder Enchant, Thunder Imperil, amazing auras, a rotation to have AoE paralysis, a character that brings offensive support, crazy percentages with attack max brave, and, critical, damage increase. So if you value those, and if you take a look at your resources and you take a look at your roster, then I want you guys to make your decision on whether or not this banner is for you. So take a look at all of that. Take a look at what Sazh and RAIJIN bring, and see if that value is worth it for you. Because I know you guys come to me and watch my videos, and you expect like, oh, 40, should I pull for this? Should I pull for that? But I myself want to avoid using the word should, because it has like a commanding undertone. And the reason why is because when you ask somebody, should you do this? What are the answers? Yes, no, or maybe. Right? So it's kind of like, as a content creator, I don't want to be dictating that to you guys that, oh, you should pull for this or you should not pull for this, because I also want you guys as my audience and as you guys that play this game to make decisions for yourselves, and that's also why I leave a bunch of links down below in the video description as well as the pinned comments, because all of those are very, very useful resources. So you guys can actually take, some research into these characters, watch my videos or, whoever's videos out there that, that you watch for Opera Omnia, and then afterwards make an educated decision for yourself on whether these characters will provide an additional value for you. Because remember, when the Lufenia era comes, actually, even right now with this current late chaos era, team compositions over the meta. Team compositions over, the best characters. It's all about team composition. So hopefully I came across, okay when it comes to that, when it comes to, talking about these banners and their value. Now, before I actually talk about the Alexander Chaos boss fight, I want to touch up a little bit on how you should be farming the summoning board points, because we're also going to be getting a new summon board, which means, hey, more gems, more tickets, more armor tokens, more resources, for us, for those sweet banners that we know that are going to be coming up. So what I would do personally is, because all 6 characters that are Super Synergy featured will have access to an EX Plus weapon, I would take either one of them, whichever one you have. Let's say you don't pull on this banner, but you already have, like, for example, Firion or Ash or Tidus or Rosa, who actually get their EX weapons, repeated on the second banner. Take one of them, bring 2 party members that you're going to be farming boards for, and then bring somebody which is a friend unit that can delay. So for example, General Leo is probably going to be your best option for a friend unit, but you could also use Aranea, you could also use Cloud of Darkness. So that's how I would personally do it. Now, as far as which character would be dealing the most damage, I actually think it's going to be Sazh, just because he has, high turn rate with his abilities, so he could take turns quite often. His aim and aim plus actually hit pretty hard, and not to mention his EX ability actually has multiple hits, even if you don't realize it. So for me personally, it would be Sazh for the Super Synergy that would be the fastest, but you could take anybody, and then afterwards take your 2 that you're going to farm for, and then take a friend unit, either General Leo, Aranea, or whoever that has access to the delay mechanic. All right, guys. Well, now we're going to go ahead and touch up on the Alexander fight, in particular, the Chaos difficulty boss fight. Let's go ahead and talk about that. The Chaos difficulty boss fight against Alexander will present one of the harder Ultimate Trial boss fights if you are not prepared. To start off, Alexander himself will be immune to HP attack silence, immune to launching, and weak to thunder and dark elements. There are 3 major factors to look out for in this particular fight, which are his barrier, his recast ability Divine Judgment, and his immediate Brave recovery whenever his barrier is broken. His barrier is triggered as soon as his recast gauge is filled to max. The barrier will cleanse any debuffs on Alexander, including framed ones, and also make him immune to delay until his recast ability is triggered. To remove his barrier, you must break him. However, after his Brave is broken, Alexander will automatically recover his Brave to 99,999. This 99,999 increase in usage after each time he casts his recast ability up to 3 times. This means at its full capacity, Alexander's auto Brave heal of 99,999 happens 3 times after you remove his barrier. His recast ability Divine Judgment inflicts a Holy Magic AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack on the entire party and then will apply a field effect called Sanctuary. If Alexander does not have his barrier up during Divine Judgment, Sanctuary will only raise his defense. However, if his barrier was up, his recast ability will hit much harder and Sanctuary will raise his defense, evasion rate, and your party will be unable to recover their Brave. The most effective strategy to deal with this boss fight is to employ a massive delay strategy to prevent Alexander from even getting his barrier up. In the event you do not have any units who can delay, you can take characters such as Penelo or Sephiroth as their EX ability reduces Brave to 0 rather than breaking, which can prevent Alexander's multiple 99,999 Brave heals. If you employ this strategy, it will look like this. Alexander deploys his barrier, you break him to remove the barrier, he heals for 99,999 Brave, you use either Penelo or Sephiroth's EX ability reducing his Brave to 0, and you allow him to cast his recast ability. This way, you're forcing him to reset his multiple 99,999 Brave heals. Alright guys, so welcome to that portion of the video where essentially I show you guys how to play these characters, or kind of give you guys a live rundown for those of you that find this very helpful. So we're going to do Sazh and RAIJIN because we know that they got their reworks and their EX realizations. I'm going to say it right now, compared to Eldnarsh, which was the first video that I did this for, these characters are not nearly as complex, so you don't have to worry about like crazy rotations and things like that. Well, maybe a little bit for RAIJIN depending on the situation, but they are definitely a lot more straightforward compared to Eldnarsh's. So we got Sazh's turn up first. So like I said, his skill 2 now actually triggers a Brave plus HP command, and it also applies those 3 buffs on the party, which are the attack up, the max Brave up, the critical rate up, and he also batteries the party with this. Now, the thing about skill 2 is that you generally only want to use this either when the buffs on your party are going to be running out soon, or if there's a situation where you actually need to Brave them because you're expecting like a huge, AoE HP attack, or let's say like, for example, somebody else is being targeted next and they have like no Brave and you don't have like a Brave regen or something like that. You could use that because it'll give them some Brave. He Braves his allies, and remember, it also doesn't take up a turn count, which is pretty useful. So that's when you would be using that, and let's just go ahead and use it right here. As you can see, he batteries the party, and he does an HP dump, and it doesn't take up a turn count. All right, so now we move to RAIJIN, since it's his turn next. So remember, when you fully purple this character, and I'm going to be talking about these how to plays, assuming you've purpled these characters, he has instant access to his EX. Now, you generally want to use this right away, because this is how you initiate his Roaring Thunder stackable buff. So he starts off with 1 stack, and then you could build a stack. So this is how this looks like. All right. Okay, so as you can see right there, we've applied 1 stack of it right over here. So remember, as long as this is active, he also gives your party, as an aura, Thunder Enchant and also HP regen. So now we're back to Saz. Aim pretty much is just a really hard-hitting ranged attack. It just hits super hard, and it has a fairly high turn rate. So at times, Saz can take his turn like almost immediately after. So this is great for like insane Brave shaving. But let's say you're like, well, I have some Brave, and I think I can probably hit close to damage cap. What if I don't want to use his skills? Well, you can use his HP attack plus, which, you know, also hits fairly well. And remember, both his HP attack plus and his Brave attack plus now can also debuff attack and defense, which is pretty useful, you know, in my opinion. That's very, very helpful. So we're gonna go ahead and just use aim just to see how it looks like. But as you can see, it hits really, really hard. It hits very, very hard, which is really cool. All right, so now we are in a situation where we're like, oh no, you know, the boss has a ton of Brave, you know, what am I gonna do about this? So now this is gonna be where you wanna apply the AoE paralysis, but we're like, well, how do I build the stacks? Well, remember, anytime RAIJIN takes an action, outside of actually using Discharge, because that actually resets the stacks, he gives himself a stack. So in this situation, I'm gonna do this. So I'm actually gonna use a C65 ability. And then afterwards, I'm gonna go ahead and use Discharge. And we have the paralysis. So his C65 ability can come in handy because not only does it do damage, but he can also build up the stacks of his Roaring Thunder. So now we're back to Saz. You know what? Just for the sake of it, I'm gonna go ahead and use HP attack plus. And as you can see, we've applied the 2 debuffs that is attached to that. And then let's not forget, I know I don't have it upgraded, but he has his Advance All. So what this does, if you have it fully upgraded with the Bloomstone and the passive, is it increases the party's attack and Brave Overflow. So if you want to push the offense, this is a great option. So I'm actually just going to do it right here, just because. And perfect, we actually forced the Cactuar to get some of his Brave back. So now we can just go ahead and break him. All right, and now we have access to his Cold Blood. So let's just go ahead and take a look at it here. So this EX ability is super cool because it does 3 Brave plus HP attacks, you know, they're AoE. So it's a really, really solid way to just deal a ton of damage whenever, let's say, the boss's Brave is like at a huge amount. All right, so hopefully this gives you guys an explanation of how to kind of play these characters. Again, not nearly as complicated as Eldnarsh, because Eldnarsh's was a bit more complex, you know, very straightforward. But, you know, remember, with Saz, just know when it's a good idea to skill 2, so he could battery his allies and, you know, refresh their buffs, and also whether or not to use his aim or his HP attack plus or Brave attack plus. And then overall with RAIJIN, you just got to pay attention to his stacks and make sure you're building up those stacks, so then that way you'll have access to that AoE paralysis, and then once he uses it, you can start building it all over again. All right, guys, this is going to conclude the video for the Alexander Ultimate Trials, as well as touching up on Saz and RAIJIN and what they bring with their reworks and realizations. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan. Thank you for watching this video. I'll stay tuned for the next one, and mahal, guys.